Okay, guys, thank you so much for coming along. It's Monday, it's 4 o'clock. Connector sessions. So this is the first one we're doing with Geoff. So as you guys are aware, the last Friday of the month, I will be doing them in regards to networking and raising your profile in the room. On the first and the third of the month, Geoff will be doing all the wonderful stuff that he does. I can't actually pin down on it because he does absolutely everything. I think today you're talking about financial year numbers, Geoff. Is that
Yeah, a
correct?
little bit. I'm talking about reviewing last financial year and some of the planning and stuff you got to think about for this financial year while it's still early on.
Beautiful. All right. Well, Geoff, all yours, mate.
Great. All right. So I'll just hit the share screen. And as usual, folks, if you can give me a thumbs up that you can see me in the screen, fantastic. All right. So that's what today is literally about. It's about how we're going to, how you can look at reviewing the last year, which is important, and also some things to do before planning the upcoming year. Now, up front, there's nothing to buy. I'm not selling anything. It's not one of those sort of presentations. So the first and third Mondays of every month, I'll be doing something to do with business here. Length will vary and all that sort of stuff. And I'm happy if you guys have got some topics you want me to look at. Some people have already asked me if I'll do one on pricing, which I will in a little while. But if there's anything you want to do, let us know. But this is a sales-free zone. One of my all-time
Yep.
favorite quotes was that.
Okay, we will.
Okay, someone needs to mute themselves, please, because we can hear them. One of my all-time favorite quotes was that John Lennon quote, which is basically, life's what happens to you while you make other plans, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be making any plans. For those of you who don't know me, most of you on the call do, but for anyone watching the recording, this is who I am, 30 plus years C-suite executive in Southeast Asia and here in Australia. Run my own business coaching, mentoring and guidance company for the last 12 plus years, helped over 160 business owners, certified advisory board chair, active governing board chair, etc., etc. All of which is up there just to let you know. I've been around the block a few times, so you're in good hands. As always, this is a little bit different. As I said before, there's nothing to buy, but also there'll be no rainbows, no unicorns, and quite frankly, no BS. Everything I present today is stuff that you can use yourselves if you want to. Time is short, so we'll get going. There's an elephant in the room when you talk about planning with people, particularly these days, in these days of Instagram and influencers and all that. You have people like this and like this saying things like this. Nothing is worth it if you aren't happy. Leap and the net will appear. Shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Or you get in life what you have the courage to ask for. And the last one, if you can dream it, you can do it. Anyone who subscribes to those things generally find themselves trapped in a job or a career or owning a business that they really don't like. Thing is, I'm here to tell you that most of that stuff, quite frankly, is blah, blah, blah and BS, right? What you have is a set of skills that hopefully you use to get people to pay you for. And if you're lucky enough to love what you're doing, that's great. But for most of us, what we do during the day, we do so we can support the lifestyle we want our families to have outside of work. So it's nice to see those things. They're warm and fuzzy, but in the real world, they don't work. In fact, in the real world, you need to understand that planning isn't easy. The processes are relatively simple, but the act of planning itself is not easy because it requires intention and commitment and time. But if you want to move from having a business and a life like this to one that looks like this, then you need to commit to getting all your ducks in a row. You've got to understand that if you're running a business, you need to understand some numbers and have some of them at your fingertips. But to start any planning process, you've got to look at where you've come from. So here's a question for you. What was important to you last year? Was it chasing money? Was it aiming for an upgraded lifestyle? Was it more family time? Maybe it was more time at the beach. Maybe it was becoming free from that job that you had or have still holding on to, but you're closer to getting out of it if that's your desire. Maybe it's just having more fun in general. Maybe it was focusing on personal growth or having more time with friends. Maybe it was chasing romance and travel. Maybe it was having some real adventures, buying that luxury car, seeing more, doing more, having an impact, creating a legacy. How did you go last year? Just put it in the chat. Did you make it? Did you get all the goals you wanted to do last year, or were you like Maxwell Smart and missed it by that much? Hit, 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 hit. Fantastic. Good to see. All right. So, of course, now we've looked at last year and the various things there, what we've got to think about is what's important for this current financial year, this 2025, 2026 financial year. Maybe it's all those same things. Maybe it's more travel. Maybe it's more time at the beach. Maybe it's more family time. Certainly, it's got to be more money, most of us. But maybe it's all those things. Maybe it's none of them. The thing is, you have a choice that you can make to decide what is important to you and what you're going to try and achieve in a business sense and a personal sense this year. You need to make a decision, though. You need to knuckle down and decide what it is you want out of this year. But in order to do that, you need to get all the white noise sort of gone through so you can end up with a very clear idea and a clear path moving forward. So in order to do that, you've got to rate last year. And I'm going to give you a number of ways that you can do that. First way you can do that is you can do a very quick review. Very simple sort of form, 2 columns. Down the left-hand side, you write all the things that went well. I made lots of money. I gained more clients than I wanted. I ran a good market, whatever it is that went well. Also, on the right-hand side, you write down the things that didn't go so well or the things you need to stop doing. I started a podcast that didn't go well and wasted too much time. Get rid of it. Or I put too much time into a YouTube channel and got no return. Whatever it is. What did work well and what didn't work so well. This is a really simple way of having a good look at last year. One of my favorites is the GBU, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So what was good about last year in a business sense or a personal sense? In other words, what things went really well, made you feel great, and things you want to see more of and maybe do again. And there's what things were bad about last year, what things were mistakes, what things can you learn from them, and what things did you do last year that didn't work that maybe you can try again from a different angle to see if they still work. They're not necessarily things to throw out, but they're things you need to learn from. The last one, of course, is what was downright ugly. What are the things that happened last year that you really don't want to see again? And these are the things you want to stop doing. These are some, maybe people you don't want to hang around with anymore, maybe meetings you want to go to, whatever it is. What was the ugly things you don't want to see in your life this year? And again, you can have a simple form to do that. And the form can be 3 parts. In the extreme left-hand side, you write down the area of your business or your personal life you're talking to. So one area might be revenue. The outcome was exceeded my goal. Action, try to do more. Or it might be October promotion last year. Outcome, failure. Action, try again with new marketing material or longer lead. It's up to you. But what was good, what was bad, what was ugly in various areas of your business. In fact, while we're talking about the rest of this year, 2025 calendar year, how are we going? Are we on target? Are you a little behind? Are you a lot behind? Or maybe you didn't have a target. Just whack something in the chat for me, folks. Either OT, LB for a little behind, ALB for a lot behind. And if you didn't have a target, don't worry. We won't call you out. But how do we go? Last year fell short. Yep. Personal growth, great. Good on you, Kerry. On target. A little bit behind, a little bit behind. Yep, terrific. So that's good. Again, it's important to recognize that. If you really want to build your business moving forward, if you want to review your business, you need to do an in-depth review, what I call a rear view mirror review. You can see from the questions there, it really digs down, right? What were you most proud of in the last financial year? What was your biggest win? What worked best? What failed outright? What fell short of your expectations and didn't work as well for you as you wanted? What were your biggest challenges in the last financial year? What kept you awake at 3 o'clock in the morning? What did you start doing but didn't finish, and why? Did you add or subtract staff? How many leads or inquiries did you get? How many new customers did you get? How often did you serve the same customer, etc., etc.? There's a whole heap of questions there, and I'll make those available later on as we talk through this. Essentially, you have three options moving forward into this new financial year. We imagine we're looking at 12 months down the track. So starting today or even 1st of July, backtrack to there. You can hold on and do nothing, which is basically a cellar dweller where you sit down the cellar and you stick your thumb in your mouth and you hope someone comes along to save you. I'm here to tell you that no one's coming to save you except yourself. You can work harder and hope for a change, but essentially keep doing what you've been doing without growing and learning from it. Or you can take action by doing a review and understanding what worked, what didn't work, and what things you need to maybe repeat with a new twist, and take some action and grow over the next 12 months. What did you choose for next year? Put it in the chat. A 1, a 2, or a 3? Are you cellar dwelling? Are you hoping that things will change if you keep doing the same thing? Thanks, Jay. Great. We're going to be an action taker. Excellent. Right answer. The thing is, which most people don't understand, is the vast majority of people, as we wait for PowerPoint to catch up, the vast majority of people stick with number 1 and number 2 because they're familiar. They know about them. Number 3 is scary because it requires you to learn and to do some changes. And less than 1 in 100 people and less than 1 in 100 business people actually choose number 3 over number 2. So if you're choosing number 3, you're to be congratulated. We're going to take a look back as well. We've got to decide, did you experience any of these things in the last 12 months? Did you have a drain on your cash? Did you feel overwhelmed? Did you find you were wasting a lot of time fighting fires in your business instead of getting on with the strategy and planning and making sure things happen? Did you feel consistently tired and stressed and trapped? And they're usually signs of you're not enjoying what you're doing, and maybe you need to think about doing something else. Maybe you were wearing too many hats. In other words, you were the epicenter of your business and had to do absolutely everything. Maybe you were confusing the idea of work-life balance with this work-life integration. Let me tell you, work-life balance doesn't exist because everyone thinks that means 50-50. What we've got is life, time, and energy. And sometimes we'll put more of those three things into our business and other times into our personal lives. The smart thing to do, of course, is to try and make sure that if you're spending a lot of time in your business, when you turn around, you start spending more time with the other people. But if any of those things were familiar, if you experienced them last year, you're not alone. Doesn't matter what business you're in. People experience those sorts of things, the too many hats, the work-life balance, stress, cash flow issues, etc. The thing is, you've got to think about this now, is if you had any of those things last year, what are you going to do about it? Remember, think back to the 1, 2, and 3. Are you a cellar dweller? Are you going to keep doing the same things, or are you going to change? And if you've decided you're going to be a 3 and you're going to change, then what are you going to do differently this year from last year? What things are you going to change? It might be something as simple as you're going to add some more promotions. It might be you're going to change the way you're doing your promotions to things. It might be purely and simply the way that you're going to look after staff. And yes, Kelly, you will be in trouble if you didn't put a 3. Sorry, some comments in the chat. Bottom line is, if you want the same results as last financial year, do nothing and maybe spiral down. If you want to change and do things, you need to do something different this year, and you should think about it. But essentially what happens is if you have no plan, you might as well be invisible. But then when people think about planning, what they do is they start thinking about, 45-page documents, and that's a plan if you're looking to raise capital from a bank or something. But the best plans are these ones. You keep them simple. You keep them easy to understand. You start off with deciding, what do you want? What do you want to achieve next year? What do you want to achieve in a whole different number of areas across your life with your family, your friends, in the business, financially. What do you want to do recreationally? Maybe there's a spiritual element to what you want to do and a social one. Maybe you just want to get your health fixed. But what do you want to achieve across those areas that make up your life? And then step back once you've written those down and ask yourself, what do I actually need? Right? I was speaking to someone on Friday and he says he wants to have $1 million business. That's what he's want, $1 million a year. Yeah, not a bad want. But when I spoke to him, he actually only needs about 500 grand a year. So his want and his need are different. He could actually meet the needs he has for him and his family at half of the money that he actually says he wants. So when you've decided your wants, have a look at which of them you actually need. And you can do that by doing this. Asking yourself a question, how much is enough? And this is a question you should revisit quite often through the year. Usually with clients, I talk to them every 3 or 4 months about it. Some people do it twice, some people do it every month. By understanding how much is enough, you look at different areas of your life. Right? How much is enough money for you in your business? If you just want a lifestyle business, you should be aiming at 350 grand a year or thereabouts. Okay, that gives you a good lifestyle business, especially here in this country. You can live very, very well on that. How much time do you want to spend working per week or month? Or how many weeks a year do you want to work? I used to run a program called No More Fridays, and one of my clients there decided he didn't want to work more than 30 weeks a year. And we built his business around that concept. But how much time do you want to spend at work? What impact do you want to have in the world? How much time do you want to have on vacation, on holidays? Do you want to have a month, 6 weeks, several months? I know people who have 3 months a year off, which is lovely for them. How many date nights do you want to have with your significant other? Once a week, twice a month? What do you need? Personal development? Well, but when we've learned enough in business and outside of it, what will tell you? What other things do you want to do? Travel, or how many good books do you want to read, or theatre shows do you want to do? I mean, AC/DC's back and it looks like I've missed out on tickets. Damn, but I would have loved to have gotten hold of some of those. Ask yourself this, across those areas, once you've decided how much is enough, overall, how will you know when you have enough in your life? Remember this though, money equals choice. The more money you've got, the more choices you have. That doesn't mean to say you should be running around trying to make $100 million a year or something, but understand that money does equal choice. So if you find yourself getting trapped in 5 figures, low 6 figures, and life isn't giving you what you want, then you need to let go of whatever fear you have about money and recognize it's just about choice. So because money equals choice, you really need to focus on getting that sorted first. Remember, you should take action because action changes things. Cliche, but like most cliches, there's an element of truth in it. It's another form for you. What are your priorities for next year in terms of revenue, marketing, health? Remember, think about all the different areas that make up your life. What are your priorities in them? And then assign a date. I want to make $10,000 a month. Well, by when? By the end of October? By the end of January? When do you want to do that? The where's there because some of this stuff these days we can do online. Some of it we can do physically. Some of it we can do a hybrid of both. Some of it might require us to be at a specific location. So what things are priorities for you? When do you want to achieve them by? And where do you want to achieve them at? Revenue generation is relatively simple to think about, but you need to plan for it. So your revenue generation in the extreme left-hand column is literally how much is the revenue generation that you're going to do? The next thing is, what are you going to do to generate that revenue? How often are you going to do it? Who's going to do it? And where are you going to do it? In this case, where means, is it online? Is it offline? Is it in person? Is it something that requires you to speak from a stage and get paid for it? Is it a widget you've got that you will sell online and package and send out physically? Think about that. And the reason why there's so many lines is to generate revenue, there might be lots of things you want to do during the year. For coaches and people here, it might be you want to generate revenue by selling a book, by selling a course, by doing some coaching, by doing some mentoring, by doing speaking. There's 3, 4, 5 different ways of generating revenue straight off there. All of this can sound overwhelming. And in fact, if you're suffering from the too many hats syndrome, where you're wearing too many things, you need to use one of my favorite tools, a to-don't list. A to-don't list is really fairly simple, but it's incredibly powerful. You list down all the things you do. From that, you pull out the things that you love doing. You pull out the things you hate doing. You pull out the things that only you can do. Then you decide which things you want to delegate and when you're going to delegate them. And then whatever's left over, you need to look at seriously to decide whether it brings you joy or whether it's just clogging things up for you. But it's key to look at that. We should be doing more things that we love, but as business owners, there should be some things that only we can do, whether we love doing them or not. But the things we absolutely hate doing, with common sense applied, they're the things that we should either be removing from our business or we should be delegating to someone else. I don't particularly like checking subtitles on videos. I'm very lucky I've got a great VA who does that for me. So subtitling videos would go into what I hate, right? And I would be delegating that to Al Jane, and she'd be looking after that every week when I send her videos. But again, a to-don't list is an important tool for you to get clarity about you and your actions and what you should be doing. If you're feeling disorganized, or if you're honest and you are disorganized, here's something else that will help you. It's a recurring task list. We all have things in our business that we have to do over and over again. Now, whether that's invoicing clients, whether that's paying our Telstra bill, whether that's paying membership on a course, whatever it is, we should be looking at those things. So what things do we have to do daily? Checking emails is something there, right? What do we have to do fortnightly? What do we do monthly, quarterly, half yearly, and annually? If we list those things down, again, we can look at them and maybe we can outsource some of them to a VA, or there may be things we're doing we no longer need to do. But once you've captured all the things that you have to do more than once, it's important to have a look at it, because you'll be amazed how many things are on that list that you probably don't need doing, or you could build a simple system for which would make it run a lot easier and be less of stress for you. So making sense of it all, God is another form. Think of it this way. There's 3 ways you can do it. You can think about the things that you want to do next year, how to generate revenue, your marketing, those things, and decide who's going to do them. Myself. What am I going to be doing in my business next year? The accelerate column is how can I use something like AI to accelerate or break the back of some of those things? Can I use AI to help me with creating websites, creating emails, getting blogs going? I don't suggest you use AI to write them entirely. What you do is you use them to create something based on what you prompt it for, and then you go in and make it all yours. But that accelerates the process enormously. And then, of course, what things can you delegate and to who? Are you going to delegate some appointment making and things like that to Sabrina? You're going to delegate welcoming people to Kerry. What are you going to do? So what things am I definitely going to do myself, because either I love them or only I can do them, or they're tied up in my strategy, or I don't have the money and the resources yet to move them. What things do I need to do that I can accelerate by using tools like AI or creating systems around? And what things can I delegate to VAs or people outside of my circle? Remember, in the movie of your life, you happen to be the director. So draw a line in the sand, because time's going to pass anyway. You should hopefully today make a commitment to yourself to take action. And if you want to take some actions, here's a few to look at. Decide what you want in this current financial year, both personally and business-wise. Review last year and see what worked, what didn't, what you want to repeat and what you want to discard. Decide how much is enough in the different aspects of your life. Do a GBU on your business last year, but I do one every month on your current business. Do an in-depth business review, working out just where the weak places are and where the strong ones are. Figure out your priorities this year. Is your health a priority? Is it money? Is it marketing? Is it learning new skills? is exiting your business, figure out what your priority is. Revenue generation is something you have to focus on because money equals choice. And the more choices you have, the freer you feel. Decide if you're going to do it yourself or you're going to delegate it to other people. And create a task list so you know exactly what you're facing. If you'd like a hand, you can book a chat. All right. If you want a copy of the forms, book a chat. All right. And I'll send them to you. Some of you folks on here have already got forms because this is close to a presentation I did a few weeks ago, but they're available there. So if you'd like to have a chat with me, there's the long form of it. I'd love to help. It's not a sales call. I'll purely and simply talk to you about your business, about where you're at, and give you some ideas on how you can maybe make things better. Again, some people on this call have had some of that call with me already. Some have not. But like I said, it's not a sales call. It's just to help you. I'm going to click back to Joe. I'm going to stop the share now. And then if you've got any questions, I'd love to answer them for you.
I'm going to jump in before we go to questions because, as per normal, Geoff, you deliver so much information at once. A lot of people are going to be going, ah. But one of the things that, well, there's probably two things that I look at that are probably the most important thing going into the new year, and like the number one biggest fallback for pretty much everybody in this room will be lost leads, not following up on somebody that you did a presentation to 6 months ago, 12 months ago. It's very, very important you keep in touch with these people. We've got the CRM. We're pretty good. We've gone a step further now. We've brought on Kerry Watkins. She's actually ringing up people that have been in the room. What did you think, Matt? Mate, why don't you come back? The amount of businesses that I speak to that can't remember who they did a presentation to 4 months ago because they haven't kept a record of that and they're not following it through. It's a pretty big thing. And even though we had the CRM, it was great for tracking people when they came in. It was great for tracking people when they were there, but we weren't really doing that follow up. We were just keeping them in the warm list going through. And it was through going through this with Geoff before the end of financial year. We go through it pretty much every quarter, actually. What I need to do this. And I've been a lot calmer this year through being more organized that way, that we realized that, well, we need to bring in another step, and that's just somebody touching base. I mean, Kerry, what's your hit rate on people saying they'll come back to the rooms? You've only been doing it for like 2 weeks.
I haven't added them up, Jay, but if I can get through to them, it's probably maybe 2 in 5.
So there's 40% chance of us again getting people that we thought we'd lost. Yeah. So, just what Geoff goes through there is absolute gold. And it's about making sure you've got that repetition, isn't it, Geoff? You've got to have those processes in place. Trust the process. So anyway, that's all I had to say. Has anybody, while you're here, got any questions for Geoff? Well, sure.
Well, there we go.
I'm sure there will be. Geoff will be online at 12:15 tomorrow when you think of those questions that you need to do.
I have a question.
Go on, Kelly.
Yes. So out of all of those forms that I am yet to fill in, which one, if you had to pick one, which one would be the one to prioritize?
Revenue.
Revenue.
Always comes down to dollars, right?
Okay, second choice.
Second choice is your priorities. What are your priorities for this year?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So not the to-do list.
Well, it depends where you're at in your business. I mean, everyone needs more money. That's important. And it's important to know what your direction's going to be this year. But if you're finding yourself like on July the 7th feeling totally overwhelmed, then do a to-don't list and do it quickly to at least get a picture of all the stuff you've got that's weighing you down. And then after you do the to-don't list, you should do a recurring task list so you get an idea of what stuff you can actually maybe even stop doing. Because we get into habits and we do stuff by habit. And sometimes when you stand back, you go, why am I doing that? I don't need to do
Yeah.
it anymore. Or I can automate it through the CRM or yeah. So
Mm.
And we
Mhm.
discussed automations today, didn't we, Kelly?
We did, yes, indeed. I was
We will
just
go
thinking
through it.
that.
Okay. Sabrina,
You mentioned something before. I think it was an acronym. GBU. What is that?
good, bad, and ugly. So what was good, that worked really well for
Huh?
me, I want to see more of. What was bad, that didn't quite work, but maybe I can learn from it and I can try it again from a different point of view or a different approach. And what was ugly, what was so bad, I absolutely don't want to see it this year ever again.
Okay.
beautiful. All right. And nobody else?